Hello, Joi Brooks with Email and Coffee. Lonnee Rey isn't one to follow the beaten path. She reinvents herself on full display. Lonnee wears her emotions like a denim jacket. She's driven by ideas and all too willing to collaborate on them. Get ready for Lonnee Rey. Hey, Joi Brooks, Email and Coffee. Today I'm speaking with Lonnee Rey. Lonnee, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Where do we start? I've typically called a professional, no, not typically, that's what I call myself. Professional tumbleweed. I've done all kinds of things in life and lived the Pippi Longstocking lifestyle. I've done all kinds of jobs. As long as it didn't involve blood, I was good. Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I can't do
I have a hard time with blood too.
Yeah, no, I can't do it. Mm-mm. Um, and I currently work as, I'm self-employed as a writing workshop facilitator for a series, an anthology series, which you were in, called Rattled Awake. Cue the book. Oh, isn't that pretty? I love the yes.
It
Yes, and
looks
you wrote,
familiar. It's because it is.
yes, it is. Yeah, I love that you were in the book and wrote the most unique chapter ever. He did.
Well,
And
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, you have a very unique style all around. That's just the way you roll. And so your chapter was no surprise. I love doing that. I also do books for other people. As
Ghostwriter.
yeah,
Ooh.
yes, a ghostwriter. Kicking Karma's Ass. This one is slated to be a movie. I wrote it that way so that they would really be able to visualize. I wrote it for a movie, and I'm excited that that'll happen for her. What a life, what she's been through. Wow. And then I've written a couple books of my own, life lessons learned from a lousy mother. And I'm not a mother, by the way. This was teeny tiny book. I was going to make it a blank book, like the Mother's Day card that I was going to write, and I couldn't think of anything to put inside. And and then I was encouraged to add some content. And it's for anyone who didn't have June Cleaver for a mother, and it allows you to really feel what you feel, and it's okay to have those feelings. Yeah, I didn't have that. So, and then I think I'm going to redo this one, Joy. Um, how to deal with a dumbass, what to do and say when they come your way. How do I read?
The extended version or version 2 or
Yes, I think that as much as I love the cheeky title, I think that people are reluctant to give it a review because they like I don't know, don't want to admit I read that, but anyway, I'm really passionate about the book, and I'm working on another project that will be tips, kind of like drip a tip on how to ascertain who you're dealing with before trouble becomes your problem. And
Mm.
it's the stuff that I wish I had learned way sooner as I was growing up. I didn't have that. Um, I had training, I guess, if everything we learn from everything, right?
On the job training?
Yeah. So my mom wasn't exactly the kind of person that I wanted to be, and so whatever she was, I decided to be the opposite. And so I took in anybody. I befriend anybody, and I was also mildly desperate and just to be loved or liked or accepted. And so as a result, I really ended up in some spots. And
Mhm.
so I want to help people to figure out who they're working with before they team up with them, so to speak.
That goes for friends, that goes for work, that goes for mates. It's like a big picture. I don't think that skill, we often talk about things that are not taught in school that should be taught in school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Life skills.
that's one of them.
Yeah. 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 How to ascertain
We
trouble.
blow it off because we're like, oh, if mom says, dad says, unfortunately, you didn't have a mom that would say anything. Needless to say, you do the opposite, which is sometimes a problem. But when mom says, no, I don't like your friends, you usually say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we don't always pick the best friends,
No.
and
Or
sometimes,
or we give people hall passes, because some of the common blah 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 is you have to compromise. Well, I was cutting off my left arm for people, and they would run over my feet back up and do it again. It would take me a couple weeks to realize what just happened, and I'd be like, "Oh, did you do that?" And they'd be like, "No." "Oh, okay, then it's me." And
Mm.
it was a really bad cycle. And so there was some confusion, because there's something today that's going on where people are like, don't judge. I'm like, actually, you actually need to have good judgment.
Yeah, you need to have good judgment. You
And
don't necessarily need to, hang it out on the front lawn, but you need to be able to say, this person's not who I should be hanging out with.
it's so different from being judgmental, which is the process of putting one person up and another down. This is
Right.
using good judgment.
Right.
And that isn't a selfish thing. It's essential. And so I think we need to bring back that,
Mm-hmm.
it's not selfish.
Mm-hmm. People will say, I don't like to hang out with people that don't agree with me, or I don't like to hang out with people that bring me down. But that's not necessarily the correct judgment. The correct judgment would be, are these people lifting me up? Am I able to lift them up? It's friendship is a 50-50, 80-20, 60-40. It's almost like marriage without the sex, which we'll
Yeah.
talk about later.
Okay. That sounds good.
So,
Bring it on.
yeah. So what you're saying is almost along the lines of work, because what we do for a living as a career, we sometimes do it because we think we like it. We sometimes do it because we want to make a lot of money. We sometimes do it because we fall into it. So, what was your first job? What did you fall into?
Well, my very first job,
Hmm.
I was a cashier for Winn-Dixie grocery stores, and I talked my way into that job, and I was so nervous. It was so green. Obviously, I'm a kid, right? And I just didn't see it coming, and I guess they suspected that I wasn't really that. I wasn't worldly. It's what happened was the meat department manager came through, and he wrote a check that was clearly not, and I didn't know at the time. I didn't know what a real check looked like. I was 15 maybe, and he passed a toy check and paid for the groceries with that. And I got called in and got scolded, and I was just, it was awful. And
Mm.
I realized real quick that I don't wanna be on a register. I don't wanna be in a box, and I did everything I could to get out of that register box, and, ended up being the stalker girl. Not stalker, stalker.
Stop.
Yeah, I liked working with
It's
the
good
guy.
exercise. Ouch! It's good exercise, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was.
And you got to meet everybody, and you could
Yeah,
talk to everybody,
and I got to move around, which I
right?
really
And,
liked.
and you could
Yeah,
be helpful too.
yeah, yeah, it was good.
Oh, where's the ketchup? Aisle 4,
Yes.
and you know
Yeah.
where everything is.
Yeah, and I didn't have to worry about miscounting change. But this is how old I am. Scanners had just come out, grocery store scanners, and they were test running them and timing us. And so we would amp up on Dexatrim. It
Oh,
would make
please.
my scalp crawl. I would just be like, boop, 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 boop,
Boom, 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 boom.
because we didn't want to lose our jobs over not being quick enough. So yeah, that's young and inexperienced.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
happens. Yeah.
Those first jobs. I mean, aside from being babysitters, what woman was not a babysitter? Did you
Right.
babysit?
That was actually, I was the built-in babysitter at home, and then I later became a professional babysitter as a restaurant manager. Oh, that's code for
Oh,
yeah, that was one of those jobs. But
I
yeah,
talking about babies. I was always nervous with babies, so I could babysit kids, but not babies. Nervous as hell, which would
yeah,
explain why I never had kids.
yeah. I've got, yeah, got my
Very
theories in line.
nervous. Like other girls were really comfortable. Maybe they had little sisters and little brothers. I didn't have that. I was the last one in my house, so very
Yeah,
uncomfortable with babies.
I can understand that. I don't remember babysitting babies. You know, when my twin brothers were born, I was 7 and I became mini mom. And so I found myself being useful in that
Mhm.
regard. So, but I do have a story about, I was a live-in nanny for identical triplets. I mean,
Identical triplets?
identical
Oh my
triplets.
God, it's bad enough and there are 2, 3.
So identical. I said, "Why don't you put a tag on these kids? Because like the parent would call in, how they doing?" And I'm like, "One of them's really annoying." And I'm like, "Which one?" Don't know. I cannot tell them apart. It was awful. And they knew it. They had, they ran with that. I bet you they're holy terrors now. Oh boy. Yeah, that
3.
was
It's this is the first time I even thought of that.
yeah, I know. Uh, Leave it to me. I'll have found something unusual.
I'm sure that mother was on some sort of a pregnancy pill.
I don't know. She might have been. She was this big, and she said she became an absolute just full blown, elephant person with these 3 babies in her.
Gosh,
Yeah, and her husband was a very tall professional basketball player. So these kids were big,
tall, big, long,
tall, big.
long babies.
Yep, yep,
My.
yeah. Then I had some good babysitting jobs.
Yeah,
I did.
the, I remember the one babysitting job where the father was asking the babysitters out.
Yeah,
I had one of those.
that's
The
awful.
creepy guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He didn't ask me out, but he asked everybody else out. I guess I wasn't his speed.
Yeah. I had one where I was a live-in on Maui. And so I went to Maui on a one-way ticket. I've done that a few times in life, and I went out there and I didn't have a vehicle, so you're really stuck. You have to do a live-in kind of job so you can get a car, obviously. And I was a live-in nanny for these kids, and I adored them. Their father was not a good person, and I stood up for the kids, and it got me fired and out the door like that. And there I was, homeless in Maui, which you think that's, oh, poor thing. It actually was a real problem. But I wasn't willing to let them be subjected. Not on my watch. Nope. But I understood his position. He's like, I'm the dad. Who are you? You're the babysitter. Shut up. And I was like, no, man, I wish somebody had stood up for me when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I sure as hell did for them.
Mm.
Yeah. Whatever it took. I know I couldn't stay there and support what he was doing. So
There are
it
a
was
lot of
probably,
lot of bad people in the world,
unfortunately.
right? You
Yeah.
don't. I mean, I try my hardest to navigate around them, but occasionally it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Steer
Occasionally,
clear. You
yeah,
gotta
it's
put
difficult
buoys.
to do that. It's difficult to do that. You know, I try not to think, are people talking about me behind my back? I try not to think that. Every once in a while I do. Like it creeps up because I just think to myself, things are not going the way they should be going. Are people talking behind my back? I went to a network meeting. People talking behind my back. That's the first. It's an odd thing. That's the first thing I think about. Maybe it's a phobia of mine that people talk behind my back. Because I said to my husband once, he said, I can't hang out with those people because they're talking behind my back, and I'm like, who doesn't? And he looked at me and he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, everybody talks. People talk. And they sometimes don't necessarily mean to talk about you behind your back. Maybe they're saying nice things, but that's still talking about you. My
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
just
good
saying.
point. Yeah, it's a good point. I think the sore point that I've had, especially in the work I do now, the multiple personalities. I was going to say multiple personality disorders that I work with.
No, there's more than one person, and they're
Oh,
not one person acting like 15. There's
oh,
15 people with personalities.
yes, that's what I meant. And what how quick people are to I have a little one-liner about it. Birds on a wire set out to conspire and ruin my sunny day. And that's, instead of picking up the phone and saying, did this happen, or how are you, or what happened, they just want to just run with it, and they do, and they're
Well,
backstabbing.
that's the thing for me. People talking behind my back, because as soon as something bad happens, I'm assuming the worst, and I have to pull back, and I do, but some
Yeah,
people don't.
yeah, yeah. And what I've learned so many things about people, and this is why I'm the star of the dumbass book, because I really have been so, I didn't know, and man, I've learned you can't ask a liar for the truth. They'll never tell you. You know, it's not like the guilty are going to confess. So you've got to stop hitting your head against a wall and, bandage up the bruises, heal the emotional wounds that nobody can see, and move on. Because they will never, ever, nor if they cared to begin with, they would have picked up the freaking phone to ask you, or talk it out. But that just shows you what they're doing. And I call them toddlers in my dumbass book. I do have a podcast based on the book, by the way. It's kind of funny, little short form episodes featuring the contagious laugh that I usually have about this. And I'm like, these guys are like toddlers, and you just have to pat them on the head, and then step out of the playpen, lock the gate behind you, and keep on trucking.
Yeah,
Because
you
they're,
definitely do. You definitely do.
yeah.
The problem is that some people, I don't know, are they narcissists? I don't know what they are. But some people have an odd outlook in life, and they have an agenda, and maybe at some point in time they'll check themselves and say, "Oh, I've done bad." But there are some points in time where they're just driving 90 million miles an hour toward their agenda, and right over you. And I've been there, so I know it firsthand. I know I've done some very bad things in my career when I
Hmm.
thought I had a focus and a point, a destination, and I was going there, and I thought, this is what you do. And
Oh,
I
wow.
know that's not what you do.
Wow.
But some people never learn, maybe
No,
because they obtain what their destination, and they think it's par for the course.
I had one of them recently text me to say, no hard feelings, I love you. And I was just like, you should be apologizing to me. I'm blown away that you don't even see that.
No hard
What you
feelings.
did.
Excuse me?
Huh? Huh?
No hard feelings.
Yeah, no hard feelings, love ya. And I'm like, oh my God. It wasn't one or two times, it was three or four times with this person. And I don't know what happened, babies getting dropped on their heads or ignored that made them narcissists, but boy, oh boy, raging narcissists, you cannot negotiate with them. You cannot be understood. Delete the need to understand. Just back away beeping, going beep 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 beep.
Yeah,
No.
and they can gaslight you to make you feel like you're the one who's wrong.
That's it. That's what they do. Yeah. And then you're
So,
apologizing for what? I don't know.
right.
I didn't do it.
I didn't, yeah, really. I'm sorry that you, what?
Yeah.
How does that
Yeah.
go? How does that go?
Yeah. Yeah, I just was flabbergasted that no hard feelings, and I'm like, yeah, this person ended up being the crux of an awful lot of gossip, an awful lot of backstabbing, an awful lot of stuff. And I'm just like, I don't want to know any of you now.
Yeah.
So life goes on, but wow, it's a hell of a sucker punch when you don't see that people could be like that, when you don't know. And I've been pretty much a solopreneur or independent. Even when I was working in kitchens, Joy, as in catering, I worked in catering for 25 years. It's a team, but you're on your own.
Hmm.
And I didn't experience the sabotage that can happen in restaurants. I was in catering; it's a little different. And so I never had the experience of people being like that. I just didn't. So it's been, even at my age, it just rattled awake. People are like, you could do a book about doing the books. I'm like, I could, but I probably shouldn't.
Right, exactly. There are some industries that are just like that. There's some industries, and corporate America is like that.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Corporate America is like that. I mean, there are a lot of people that keep a low profile, but anybody that wants to be anybody has to put the armor on and wade through the mess. And I couldn't do it. I
No,
don't
me
have it.
neither.
I
No.
don't have it. And
Mm-mm.
I also can't just sit back and wait. I'm not that person either. I'm an idea person, so I'm like, oh, this corporate America is going to kill me.
Yeah. Yeah. My father wanted me to take my culinary degree and climb the corporate ladder at Marriott and become an exec chef. And I said, you have no idea. First of all, I want to go to film school, not food school. But you're not hearing me on that. But I said, that's not an environment that I want to try to thrive in at all.
Were you in California at that time, or where were you?
Let's see. I went to school in Rhode Island.
Okay.
But as far as Marriott goes, it was a concept in his head that
Right.
I should be, um, and so in order for me to get through school, excuse me, the best thing I could tell myself was, I'm pretty good with a glue gun. I love entertaining. I'm great with theme parties. I'm a hell of a good cook. I'm going to give Martha Stewart a run for her money. I was like, I'm going to end up on TV, maybe. That's the only thing that got me through the grind. I did 4 years and 3 and got the hell out. And and I thought I was getting on into the best job in the world, and it turned out to not be so good. In fact, it's
Yeah,
probably
the
one of the
reality of when you're young, the reality of your passion projects is sometimes jarring.
wait till you hear this one.
Mm.
I'd say this is going to qualify as one of the worst, and it's hard to believe. I, as Pippi Longstocking wannabe, was so excited that I got to be a chef on a private yacht, a 92-foot yacht,
That
the
is a dream
Coldwater.
job, yes.
Yeah, it was. I was a guest on the boat, and I stayed friends with the captain and his wife. Well, with her, not him. And when I got out of culinary school, they hired me, and I just, like I said, I played White Snake as I was leaving the house. Here I go again on my own. My little brother's like, "Yes, sis, you go, you go," and off I did. Well, once the boat got out of the Intracoastal and hit the open waters from South Florida as we were motoring up to New York, I got so seasick. I was green.
Mm.
Couldn't brush my teeth even. Thank God the boat broke down, and I got to patch while we were in getting the boat fixed. But man, okay. That aside, uh, I later learned that I was working for a Captain Herb Schneeweiss, was known as the asshole of the high seas. Excellent manifesting. Thank you very much. He was. He was such a jerk. And I didn't like the first mate either, but it turned out that he and I hated the captain more than we hated each other, so we got together, which helped. But we had a charter guest, Finkelstein, a cigar smoking, gummy bear eating, 80-year-old pig of a man. Okay? And when people weren't looking, he was pinching my ass. And he was obnoxious. It was awful. And it treated me like, his personal slave. The boat was beautiful. But every time we hit high water, everybody got sick. And so did the chef, me. So it was terrible because we didn't go out that often. We were docked in West Manhattan. They treated the whole so here's the thing. Most people don't have the dough to do more than a week or two on a boat like that. He booked it for 10 weeks. And
Finkelstein? Oh, okay.
he was a newspaper magnate, and he was paying back people over the course of his life. So we entertained people. Art Buchwald might not mean anything, but he was a columnist. Art Buchwald and Ethel Kennedy and the family were on. And
Oh,
so there were some highlights. And me as a new chef, it was probably a good thing they treated me like a short order cook instead of sitting down at the table with knife and fork in hand going, "What'd you make? What'd you make?" I was a short order cook and it was rough. And they would come in with all their groceries. And in a boat like that, you have a standard fridge at best. And so there'd be 3 or 4 families bringing in all their stuff and stuffing it into the fridge and being like, make us, another gummy bear sandwich or whatever. It was awful. And when Finkelstein renewed for 2 more weeks, I jumped ship. I did. I was voluntarily homeless. We heard that there was going to be a party. So this was up in the Newport area, which is very shishi, Martha's Vineyard. We were over there a lot. And I heard that Carly Simon was going to have a party. And so we got off the boat and hung out on her property. She never came. The party never happened and the boat left. And so I had to, right. I had to figure out what the hell to
there's a
do.
song in that somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. And somebody took me in. I've always somehow managed to make it, but that was a nightmare too. And then I bounced down to Florida and went to work for Marriott.
Oh, there you go. And Dad's like, "Yeah, yippee, she's finally."
Oh, well.
I worked in the restaurant business for a little while through school. I was never a cashier. I was always a waitress or a short order cook. Or
Oh, God, bless your heart.
yeah.
Oh.
Or and I didn't really mind it because it was like grilled cheese, hamburgers, French fries. It was it wasn't. It was there was a limited menu, but I liked it. I got free food.
That helps.
Yeah, and then I worked in a restaurant for a while after college, and then I got a job in New York City, and the rest is history. So.
Yeah.
So you told us about a few jobs. That was your first job. How about let's do your best job before we go worst? How about your best job, your bestest? Yeah, really. There you go. If you weren't egged on.
So I'm really gonna honestly I'm gonna put the yacht job was pretty much one of the worst jobs I've ever had. If not the one of the it was off and on. Okay, so this is really hard to categorize them. I've done so many things, but the
Do we segue
working
into it? How do we segue into this?
working as an adult entertainer. What happened? What had happened was I ran out of jobs that I could do. And I went from being a color me beautiful makeup artist. I transitioned out of that job and I did really well in sales and I loved doing makeup on people. We did the seasons, the colors, the whole summer, winter, whatever you are. I loved it. I really loved that job. I don't remember what happened, but I met somebody and
Speaking
Melissa
of judgment, no, go ahead. You met somebody.
Melissa was a dancer and she was 31 or 32 at the time and I'd never been in a club in my life. But I looked at her and I looked at me and I still wore really big clothes. I hid because I didn't want to be approached just because I had a decent figure. I wanted to be seen for who I was, my personality. Could you stop looking at my ass? I'd appreciate it. And I was like, well, since you're going to do it, might as well get paid for it, right? I had no idea what I was doing, Joy. She lied to the manager. It was a really seedy club. And again, I've never been in a club in my life. And I was excited because since I was little, I wanted to get paid to dance. And when I was little, I grew up on watching American Bandstand. You remember that show and
Yes,
Soul
Bart.
Train, right?
Who was
Yes.
Soul
And
Train? Who was on Soul Train? Who was that? Never mind. Go ahead.
so yeah. So when I was a teenager, 19, I won a dance contest in Fort Lauderdale at Artstock's Playpen. And it was, and the guy on the phone gave me some coaching, and he said, now what you want to do is you want to come in with like a bulky shirt on or bulky sweater and kind of do like a little, like, peel and reveal. Okay. I really wanted to win this thing because it meant that you got a spot on TV. And that was my dream since I was a little kid. And I did. I got on TV. I did. I came in second. I didn't win, but I came in second. And that was good enough. And so I was like, oh, so this whole peel and reveal thing, hey, that could work. Okay. Well, it's another, 10 years. I've never thought about being in a, an adult entertainer. But I was out of luck. I didn't want to work in kitchens. It was literally breaking my back. There were times in catering that you could have found me literally hunched over at my car, and I could not move. It was like moving 4 times a day. It was awful. Off and on, it was, one of those, I love it, I hate it jobs too. Right? Well, so she lies. I get into the club for my first day. I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna get paid to dance. So I'm up there dancing like Michael Jackson. Yeah. And I'm having a good time. And nobody wants to, in that world, I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. Nobody's gonna give you tips on how to do better. They're happy if you suck. Okay, quite frankly. Finally, one person said to me, you might want to slow down a little bit. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but okay. Anyway, I didn't know what a lap dance was. I was looking at next to me and going, oh, okay. And I was imitating, squeezing boobs together. I was imitating whatever I could see. Oh, you turn around, you do this. Okay. I got fired pretty quickly. And it was, that was kind of a devastating experience. And I was like, oh, you don't like me. No, you're not. You don't belong here. It was a very dark, seedy club. I did not belong there. So I had no choice because I genuinely was out of work options. I didn't have a lot of skills. I'd been a temp a lot. And I said, okay, well, let me see if I can make a go of this. And I did. And off and on, more off than on, frankly, for 8 years. That was the work that I did.
Say in and out. I'm sorry.
No. And I worked during the day because night shift was too hectic. It wasn't my thing at all. I just didn't fit in. I already looked like the house manager because I didn't know most people are, they're done by the time they hit their, maybe mid-20s, they're done. So I was kind of a novelty in there with my glasses so I could see across the salon who's coming in, because otherwise I wouldn't know, and I'd have to walk up to somebody. Oh no, I don't want to work with you. So yeah, I called myself Madam X. I called myself Peppy. I called myself a lot of different names, but Madam X was really the most fun. And the other girls and I didn't do pole tricks. Okay, I can't lift my body weight on a pole. Are you freaking kidding me? I just kind of like danced around it. When I first started, I thought you needed long hair, so I spent hundreds to get extensions that were glued in so I could throw the hair, do that. It was awful. My super fine hair, and then I had like, but I thought that's what you needed to do. So I was trying really hard to make it. No special moves. Nobody wanted me in Las Vegas, that's for sure. I didn't carry a trunk with wheels on it, my, Little Red Riding Hood act. I wasn't that kind of gal at all. I was just a regular gal, like a lot of the ones that I worked with. That were single moms, college students, girls, older girls. Some of them were, the main bouncer said that my best friend in the club he said, I figure she's 50.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was a real mix of people at the best club in San Diego, which was Cheetahs. I didn't think I would be able to work there. I didn't think I was pretty enough, or I was whatever enough. I was surprised when they hired me. But what that means is they're happy to take $70 a day from you, and good luck making money.
Yeah.
You're paying rent.
Yeah.
So yeah. Then I went on the road, went up to Alaska, and because that was supposed to be good when the boat comes in. No, it's not for me. It wasn't. It wasn't. But I did meet a fishing boat captain, and we had a nice summer together.
You know, you've had quite a number of adventures because
I have.
um,
I have.
you know, for no fault of your own, it's sort of, being being Pippi, you had your adventures.
I have. One time a psychic said, a couple of them have said, oh, in a not too distant lifetime ago, you were a nun. And I was like, I'm really busting out this time. Got a lot of ground to cover, a lot of things to make up for, apparently. I just wanted to, what's under here? What's over there? The professional tumbleweed, which way the wind blows. I decided to stay free. That's why I didn't have kids, mostly. I got to go. I got stuff to do. I am not hunkering down in some neighborhood with some dude.
Well,
To bear
the thing
trouble.
is, a lot of women would have done that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of women would have done that because at some point they would have run out of gas. But you obviously have a mission.
I don't know. I just was curious. I saw how miserable my mother was being a regular employee. I saw how miserable my father was being an entrepreneur. I was like, what in the world am I going to do? Back then, the choices were, you going to be a nurse, a receptionist, you going to, join the service so you can travel, or get married. And I know that sounds like the 50s, and this was not, it was the 80s. But coming of age in that era, there still wasn't a lot of options unless you could go to college. And that's why when my dad put me through culinary school, he thought, you'll always have work. And I was like, yeah, have you ever stood on a hotline and poked meat? I don't want to do it. I didn't like it.
And it's very competitive to get to be the head chef. Very competitive, and they're
Yeah.
nasty people.
Yeah, they
So
are.
I've
And
heard.
it's true. And the ego, I don't know how some of those guys got into work every day because their heads couldn't fit through the door
The
jam.
egos there are huge.
Oh, boy. So,
And
yeah,
a lot
none
of
of it was.
yelling and pots flying and things, ridiculous things in kitchens where it's like, that's professional.
I'm glad I didn't go through that, and I could not stand the grind of a regular restaurant menu. I needed variety, and that's one of my favorite jobs is working for Nordstrom Catering, Nordstrom the family in Seattle. Yeah,
Things that you
yeah.
come up with constantly amaze me.
Oh yeah, Nordstrom Catering was the bee's knees.
Like you can't
They had a
make shit up.
reputation.
So you're catering for Nordstrom's, the family.
Yes,
How long? How long did that?
several years. I worked for a number of companies at once as the catering chef. I wasn't the head chef. I loved food as art. I always did. Garmager is the word for painted plates, fancy presentations. Man, behind me are all food books. Are all yeah.
You still do you still cook?
I do.
Is it presentation or is it food? Or is it both?
It's both. It's
I'm not
both.
good on presentation. I love cooking. I just
I
slap it
love
on a plate and I eat it before it's like presentation, it's gone.
I do love presentation, and that's why I love Nordstrom so much. And we would everything we brought out on plates was with ramekins that had bear grass coming out of it, and absolutely the bee's knees. There was a warehouse, a gigantic inventory of theme things, theme related. So I was really in seventh heaven as far as loving theme parties. And the floral department was phenomenal. I went to flower arranging classes, and I wanted so badly to get out of the kitchen. And I finally got into the floral department. It took a year and a half. And my first day, they had me outside chopping the roots into an angle of a palm tree to make it fit into a pot. and spray painting it gold. And I couldn't do it. I tried. I was hacking at this tree and I was crying. And I was like, I'm so sorry. We're going to use you one time and spray paint you. Like, I'm nature girl. Like, seriously, I could not do it. And they said, go back to the kitchen. So the job I longed for so long was just a day, practically. But I loved working with them. I loved the presentations. And you want to hear about the coolest party ever?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Let me get some water real quick. Coolest day ever. There was a guy won. He bid highest bidder for charity. It was a fundraiser dinner that he won. A fundraising event. He bought this dinner for himself and 25 of his closest friends. And it was a pre-revolutionary Russia theme party in which the authenticity went all the way. It was held at this man's house that had waterfalls in it, Andy Warhol's, expensive art, incredible architecture. The people came in powdered wigs, big powdered wigs and gowns. And they did it authentically. There was no electricity used out in the main area. It was all candlelight. It was all authentic, everything. And the food was flown in from all over the world. So we had champagne from France that was amazing. I was a vegetarian at the time, which sometimes was a problem as a chef, but I broke it that night because the caviar that they brought in, we were in the back just, are they coming? Are they coming? There were doors between us and the butler pantry and then the formal dining room. And we just gorged on that. It was incredible, everything. And I was honored that they picked me to be the chef for that party. I was always honored like that. I really appreciated the responsibilities that I had and carried out. I did not want to move into exec chef. It was not my thing. But Nordstrom was known for really high end. It was like moving 4 times in a day, moving literally moving refrigerators, stoves, working all day doing the prep. And when you cook in catering, you have to have a special intuition for the food, because not only are you getting it ready, then it's holding for a while, then it has to be, there's timing. And
Yes.
and I love the big events, man, where we had we had to feed 1,000 people and we would line up all these tables and everybody had their special job and you're right across from somebody and you're doing peas and they're doing carrots and it's just go, 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 go. It's nuts. And it's so fun. And the person at the end is wiping the plate so you get all the gravy and off the edges, and the servers are hauling ass. And it's just, now set up for desserts. Go, 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 go. It was just insane. But what I loved about it was the orchestration of it all. And we were able, when you work in that field long enough, you do get a feeling for how long to cook something before you bring it over to the party. How long can you.
This is
And
science. I've always said cooking is science.
Yeah, it is. Kitchen science was my favorite class in school. Yeah. So anyway, I have had a lot of different jobs, and the one thing that I liked about being an adult entertainer, and
I'm afraid to ask. Go ahead.
was that I grew in my self-esteem. There's nothing. I don't think there's much harder work in the world than to stand in front of someone. And I was not walking around in a thong and tassels. I had on clothes because I figure if you're going to be a stripper, you got to have something to take off. Okay. So, right? Come on, girls, use some imagination. And I did. I was like that. I wasn't the most popular person. That's for damn sure. And there's nothing harder than to have somebody kind of look you up and down and go, no. And have that happen all day long to where you owe the house money. So you're in the hole when you leave. It can really kick your butt. And people are like, oh, it isn't personal. And I said, okay, you stand in front of some dude day after day or hour after hour and just get rejected. Tell me that's not personal. It sure as hell is, because all they're doing is assessing the shell, the look.
Mm-hmm.
That is very hard to do. And what it taught me was to pick myself back up again, to be resilient, to get back on the horse and try again.
Mm-hmm.
And to find my authentic pace and my authentic self. I remember one time I got out of the car and I was in a great mood. And this gal, she's like, "What are you doing all happy? I don't waste a good mood on this place." She made money being a bitch. She profited when she was in that kind of mood. If I was, forget about it. Just.
It's the package.
And I didn't know, like I had no clue really. You're being the fantasy. You've got to be the fantasy girl. And I was like, I'm just trying to figure out who I am. I'm trying to be authentic in this world that supposed, fantasy is where, what you're doing, but I couldn't get with that. Every time I tried to do some kind of fake thing, I failed. So I just learned to really just be myself and hope that was enough.
And for a
And the
while it
beauty,
was, right? For a while it was.
yeah, it was. And, it was a safe job. I felt safer working there than going on a date with somebody because there were eyes everywhere. I was an inventor. I invented the lapkin.
The lapkin? Okay, so it's a lap napkin or something like this.
Yes, the lapkin. So there I am, this older dancer. I've got a fur covered piece of foam tucked under my arm for my knees because I don't want to kneel on those disgusting carpets, and the dance floor, and I've got a piece of material that I lay on their lap because in the wintertime wool pants hurt like heck on your skin. If you're touching that, it hurts.
Mm.
So I laid the lapkin on him, put my pillow down on the floor.
Did you sell it or did you
I thought about it. Others started to make their own knee pads, at least. They did. I was onto something.
I've never been to a club. Never been to a club.
Yeah.
But I have put myself in odd situations.
Yeah. Like what?
My father was he worked for ABC, and he did a TV show that went to the Bahamas every year. I can't remember. I hate when I can't remember things. If I remember the name, I'll bust out with it. But anyway, it went down there every year. So as I got older, I began to go down with him every year. And it was a competition of athletes, but it was a game show-ish. And it had all the athletes. So all these famous athletes would come and they'd compete: golf, swimming, and some goofy things, some goofy things.
Right.
So I went down with him every year, and which means I went to the Bahamas umpteen times.
Yeah.
And I liked the cameraman, Ralph. I think his name was Ralph. So I followed. I was maybe 17, 18. I followed Ralph around wherever he went. Wherever he went, I was there. Now, the grip guy figured it out, right? And he was a nice guy, so he befriended me. So, hey, Joi, let's go. We'll meet you at the casino tonight. So, oh, cool, Daddy, I'm going to the casino. So I go to the casino with Ralph, and I can't remember the other guy's name. Bad me. And we're drinking, and at that point in my life, I drank like a fish. And so I'm drinking, they're drinking. Oh, they've got a show in the morning and they have to go. So they say, oh, let's go, Joi, we're leaving. No, I'm going to stay. And they're like, let's go, Joi, we're leaving. No. And I, said it one time, too many. And they're like, okay, goodbye. So I stayed at the casino. I was talking with this very cute blonde woman, Bahamian accent, white woman, Bahamian accent. I found that to be just utterly fascinating.
Yeah.
So we're talking. She goes, "Hey, you want a party?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go over there.
Of course.
You want a party? Yeah, sure." She goes, "Great." So we get into the limousine and we drive into the hinterlands. It takes me probably a minute too long to figure out she's a hooker and she thought I was a hooker and we were going to a party. So I get to the place and I walk in and I'm like, this is not a good thing.
Mm-mm.
I go into the bathroom, I smack myself silly, and I mean smack. I'm like doing this. I'm like, get sober, woman. You got to get out of this.
Oh, shoot.
I'm not I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know these people, and I don't know who. I don't know. I don't know anything. Well, I got home that night, and my father was. It was 4:00 in the morning that I got home. He was furious because Ralph had told him, like, oh, we left her there. You what? I don't know if
Oh,
they
yeah.
went to find me and I was already gone. I really don't know the story. He was furious. I'll never forget that story.
Yeah.
I had to tell
Yeah.
the guys that my father was a big wig with ABC, and that if anything happened to me, it would be on the news. They got me home.
Right on.
They got me home.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you seem to fall into the right places. I fall into the wrong place.
Oh, no, I'm just skipping over those.
Oh, wait, let's hear about one of those wrong places, if you can. A funny one, a funny wrong place, or any wrong place you want to. You can.
Well, yeah, so I ended up in the wrong place because of people I was hanging out with. And I was a lifestyling, I had a drug-centered lifestyle.
Mm.
And I'd been through a lot already.
Well, it's the 80s and the 90s, so we're talking about Cocaine City.
Yeah, but it wasn't cocaine.
Oh, okay.
It was other stuff. It was, rock and other stuff
Right.
we were doing. And a fight broke out in my apartment where I was living in Las Vegas. Really bad place for me to be living, considering what I was trying to get away from. And I escaped out the window of my bedroom with a little overnight bag.
With an ocean bag.
A carry-on bag, yeah. And I was hoping that the guy that I was enamored of, that he and we both left together, that he would look out for me, we'd find something, because he'd lived there. I don't know that he was local, but he was a lot longer than me. And man, I didn't know what I was going to do with my apartment and everything that just got left behind. He took me to a place, and I walk in as, Susie Cream Cheese, and they're I wouldn't say they were gangster, but I wouldn't say they weren't.
Mm.
And there were some old, and OG means, genuinely old. And one of them was a female. She would have been somebody's great grandma. She was that old. And she decided that my suitcase belonged to her. And she took it out of my hands. And I'm sitting there, and all eyes are on me in this extremely uncomfortable living room that's a spot. And she's going through my stuff. And I'm like looking at him like, could you say something? Can you help me out here? These are your people, not mine. Help me out. He didn't say anything. And finally, another one, a woman, I don't know why this mattered, Joi, but she said, Leave her alone. She's an innocent. And there was a pause between the two sentences. She's an innocent. And the OG looked up and she looked around and she kind of looked embarrassed and she put all the stuff back in the suitcase and I left. It was a very scary situation.
You do realize you have an angel hovering over you. Somebody in your family's watching over you.
I must have. In fact, one of my chapters in Rattled Awake, I talk about this story, and I call this guy. Well, I'll tell you the story, and I'll tell you what I call him. So I'm walking, crying, not knowing what I'm going to do. Coming down, no sleep, haven't eaten. I'm, an addict. I'm a mess. And I hate that word addict. I think that is a lack of willpower. And at least it was for me.
You were lucky. You were probably lucky because you were probably at the precipice of lack of willpower and I'm addicted.
I think the only things we're addicted to are food, air, and water, and some sleep. And the rest of it is optional. And it really does take some discipline to pull away from a drug-centered lifestyle, especially when it's what I was doing. But I did. Anyway, there I was, walking with my suitcase, bumpity bump down this nighttime street of Las Vegas. I'm exhausted. I sit down on this open lot and I'm just crying. And out of the blue, this guy comes up and he stands over me and he says, "Get up." And I look up at him and I'm right. "Get up now. If you don't get up, the police are going to come by and they're going to pick you up. And you're not going to want that. Get up." And in this story in Rattled Awake, I call him the yelling angel, and the one or something like that. I've given these people along the way, like the screaming angel, the lady who said, "Leave her alone. She's an innocent." And then this guy who came up, I called him, he was the get up angel. Get up. He just yelled at me, "Get up." It's I don't know what happened next. I have a lot of blanks in my life. I don't remember how I got from A to G, but I did. Still here, still fogging a mirror, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely been angels along the way. I know there have. There's no other way I'd be here.
So then there's a mission. You were saying that, tips about judging people because you've been there. You're not making this up. You're not pulling it out of, somebody's. These are life's hard lessons.
It was adventure.
Yes. And a lot of people would be could be very negative about a lot, but you're not negative. I mean, you get angry, you get pissed off. Duh, you have a right, but you've turned them around to be. The moral of the story is
there's always something, and that was the prayer all along, Joy. I had a 40 plus year battle of self-loathing, gutter level self-esteem, self-hatred so bad that I overdosed on baby aspirin when I was 8. I got an early start on not wanting to be alive. And I, through all of these tumultuous, heartbreaking times that I'm telling you about, the fun adventures, there was an awful lot of darkness and despair. And all I said was, someday, if I make it through this, if I can get rid of the monkey on my back and heal the hole in the middle of my soul, my solar plexus felt like a black hole was in them. And I felt permanently damaged and damaged goods and broken for a very long time. And I said, if I can ever find my way back out of that, I'm going to come back with a lantern, my lantern, and a laugh. And I'm going to show people the way out, if ever I could find it myself. And it doesn't have to be on a stage. Don't have to hold a mesmerize an audience of thousands to have impact. I believe that the vibration of who we are goes out and it says, remember who you are. And that was all I ever wanted to do, was to make some sense of it. And if I can't, I'll delete the need to understand and just find the gems, mine the gems, find the gems. And I'm not one of those people who looks at life and says, this isn't Earth school and you were learning lessons. I really, really don't do that. I don't believe in that. I don't. And it's another topic for another day, no doubt. But I don't. I just see it as it's experience. I didn't come here necessarily to have lessons.
Right.
I came here to have an adventure,
Right.
And that's all. But I was moved by Tony Robbins one time, one particularly dark time. And I said, well, maybe someday, I know it's an immeasurable goal, but maybe someday I could impact as many people. No, wait, make it more than Tony Robbins, because I was on the path of being a motivational speaker at the time.
Well, you could definitely speak. You've got You've got a bunch of stories.
I do. Yeah.
Do you have a good tip? One good tip. Do you?
Yeah. Remember that it always works out. And my tip is to look around and realize all, like in the a recent chapter, Joi, I said, if you ever feeling powerless, go look in your closet, because everything got there because of you. And you're a manifester. You're a creator. And when you ask, how can I? There will be an answer to that. So how can I have more fun today than I ever thought possible is the best tip I can provide to people, which is that you ask how, and there is a what's coming. Stay focused on the what, and the how makes itself known. So I believe that the best tip we can have anymore these days is to try and stay light and bright, and also go through our feelings. You got to let it out to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
But then get back to, how can I have more fun today than I ever thought possible? Today was one of those days. And I woke up and I wanted to go back to bed, pull the covers over my head and cry.
Mm-hmm.
Today was one of those days. Very rare that I have a day like that. It was hard. And in 45 minutes, I had to pull it together, do interviews, and push through it.
Mm-hmm.
And that question will do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest tip. Ask that question. Because you can manifest anything you want.
I always, in many ways, we're sort of alike, because I think, and I don't know what it is, somebody's overlooking me. Somebody up there likes me. I don't know who, but somebody. And I'm very appreciative of it. I used to take advantage of it because I didn't know that it was there, and I just kept on doing stupid things. But
testing the system.
But I'm still here, and I realize, right? I don't know if it's luck. I really don't know what it is, but that has made me grateful for all of the days that have been behind me, because it can be over any point in time. So that's when I realized, wouldn't you really rather be lighter than sadder? Wouldn't you really rather be trying to make it work than trying to, I don't know, hide? And I don't know if I have bad days. I mean, I have days where I do the wrong thing and I'm like, oh, you did the wrong thing again. You did it again. You don't slow down enough to learn, to think. I'm not the most, I'm pragmatic, but oddly, I move very quickly through life. That's why somebody's up there watching me, because I'm surprised that I haven't run into a truck. But I think what you're saying here is, how can I, make it better?
Yes.
Just make it a little bit better.
The answer comes on its own. That's the cool thing. I'll ask that question and I'm not drumming my head going, how can I have fun right now? No, just ask the question. Let it go.
Yes.
And it
It
works.
works. No, it works. Because that's when you begin to think, oh, you know what, I'll have fun with breakfast. And then breakfast is over. And you're like, oh, you know what, I'll make, I'll make a really nice cup of coffee. Oh, and then you have a coffee. And then, oh, you know what, I'll go for a really nice walk. Oh, look up there, that bird. Oh, and suddenly you're doing it all. You're looking for all the good things. You're not looking
Yes.
down at the road going, they never paved these roads. Look
Yeah.
at that! Look at that house. That house is, you don't look at those things. Matter of fact, if somebody were to ask you, you'd be like, "Oh, I hadn't noticed," because you are making it fun.
And it shows up for you. Like, if you remember, here's what happens. Typically, if you remember to look back on the day and go, yeah, you know what? It started out as a really shitty day. And somehow it turned around. You'll forget to look back because it turned out better than you thought it could.
Yeah,
Just ask the question and then let it go. And man, there's no better tip that I could provide to people, especially now,
yeah,
because there is so much that we could focus on when what you focus on grows. And I'd rather ask the ethers, how can I have more fun today than I ever thought possible? Thanks. You got this? Cool. And it'll show
show
up.
up.
I loved what you said. How can, I make a nice cup of coffee. I make a nice breakfast.
Right.
I love that present moment that you have with that.
I try to. It's just the everyday things. Like some people will attempt to do the extra special things. Right? Oh, I'm going to go on that trip that I've always wanted to go on and blah, blah, blah. I do the little things because I don't have it in me right now to do the big things. Maybe I'll do them. Right now, it's the little things. And so I make all of the little ordinary things special. And one of the things that I do say is everything is special. And then there's extra special. There's no ordinary.
I love that.
So,
It's like you put you wrap everything with a beautiful ribbon.
right.
With intention to do that. That's beautiful. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it. I'm
No,
gonna try it.
I didn't realize it was so brilliant.
It is.
And I go down the rabbit hole. I get lost in things because it's very easy to realize that times are tough, and times are always tough, and some people have it really tough.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I don't know if I can help everybody. Just like you said, when you said, you help a lot of people. That's one, it's a legacy thing. It's something about legacy for me that I realize I've been fortunate enough to live so many years. So let's see if I can share that little bit of fortune with somebody else. And my husband used to play lottery all the time, lotto, and I would say to him all the time, I would be saving that luck for something else. Because money, I don't know. I really just money's nice. Don't get me wrong, money's nice, but it doesn't buy you anything except it pays for things. But in the long run, doesn't buy you anything. It just pays for stuff. And at some point, stuff is stuff. So you have a house, you have a place to sleep. You have a nice bed. You have a car. Do you have to have two cars? Do you have to have two houses? Do you have to have like at some point that's stuff?
Yeah, I never bought into that. No pun intended.
Right? No, I bought into it for a while. I bought into like I need to make 6 figures. I need to make 7 figures, and I'm like, what? Why? I need to pay my bills. The rest is, how can I make it? How can I make the day fun?
Yeah. Yeah. Quality, not quantity.
Right. So, anything special? Anything otherwise special that you're working on now?
I don't know that, aside from doing the Rattled Awake series, which is, it's so crazy how it's come about. And then it's become some of the most rewarding work I've ever done. It's also become the biggest pain in the ass.
A nickel
It's
has two
special.
sides.
It's special, all right. But yeah, I'm just putting together my 10th podcast, the Rattled Awake Cafe, and it's becoming a bit of a hodgepodge of audio readings of my chapters and interviewing people. I haven't wanted to be on camera for a while, so it's pretty special that I've actually found a hairbrush, can use it
That's why I cut my hair off. I don't have to worry.
with one hand. I've got one hand to style, right? And then find the all the energy that it takes to do a podcast.
I know. I
So
know.
it's a big deal. I know you do. So yeah, that's special. That's what I'm working on now.
Good.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll see what happens next. I just want to share something final, a thought.
Please do.
And there's no answer to this. So part of what's special now is like, okay, maybe things are already figured out for us and we're just along for the ride. And here's why I think that. And it's kind of freeing instead of fatalistic.
Mhm.
When I was 30, I went to see a birth chart reading group. I was desperate for answers. It was proven I didn't have a chemical imbalance. There was no magic pill for me. I was just emotionally messed up. And so I went to this group to find out anything I could. What happened still bothers me, still boggles me, I should say. They wanted to check in, see, because they're amateur. They had one guy who knew what he was doing, and the other 5 were like, we're learning. And that's cool. That's cool. I'll take whatever you got. And he says, I want to see if we're close. Want to see if we see that you were 3 years old when your parents got divorced. Is that true? And I was like, yeah. What? Wait, hold up. You see, when I was 3, that my parents got divorced. That is mind-blowing right there. And I said, is it all already done? Is it all on the map? Because I wondered what else they saw that they didn't check in on, because there was stuff before I was 3 that happened. Bad stuff. And the default people go to, Joy, is, oh, well, there's always free will. And I said, I'm not going there. I'm not doing that. I said, it can look like free will that you made a left-hand turn when you air quote should have made a right to find the hotel. But what if that's on the chart already too? It just looks like free will to us because we're slogging through. I said it might actually explain why what calls to us is for us. What's our big yes? My big yes is different from yours. The big yes it defies logic, looks crazy to other people, but it's for you to do, and it works out. And when you don't follow it, it really doesn't work out. And I've pondered that, and they left, no doubt, asking the same questions. Is it all already done? And I know that sounds a little bit, people are like, oh no, you can manifest anything. You can. Maybe if that's on your chart. I won the lottery on purpose. I even knew the day I was going to win. That happened 2 years ago. I still have a copy of the check on the fridge. It was only $6,000. But I knew the day it was going to happen. I knew I knew, I worked the numbers. I sat here and I meditated and I studied numbers. And then I called on my mom, who just passed away. She was a medium. I said, you owe me. I want you to help me. She'd helped my brother, who won the church raffle. She told him how many tickets to buy, and he won 50,000.
Wow.
So we've had a lot between us, and she was gone. And I said, you owe me. And so I don't know if calling on her helped, but I won the lottery. And I even knew the day. I'm not bragging. I'm saying I haven't done it since. I haven't felt called to go win millions. It's not like I'm out there popping out with a book on how to win the lottery. It was just one of those things. And I think that's what this lifetime has been about. adventure. Just one of those things, Is it all already done? Maybe.
Oh my! I was watching. The guy's name is Robert Sapolsky, I believe. He's a neurophysician and whatever. And he wrote a book called Determined, and he believes that there is no free will, that biologically, environmentally, everything happens. It's it's a matter of cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. What right down the line? That if you make that right turn when you should have made a left, it was because you were flustered at the moment. But it's cause and effect. Everything happens for a reason. It's not as if you're saying, "Oh, I'm going to make a right-hand turn, even though I know I should make left." It's hard to explain. Let's put it this way. It's another definition of why we do things, as opposed to saying that we are making decisions. Those decisions are a culmination of where we've been and what we've done and what's around us. So, is it free will? Is it, if we choose to have lamb because we've had it a million times before and we love it, we're not making a choice. We know we like lamb. It's predetermined. There's lamb on the menu. There's steak on the menu. You don't like steak, you're going to have lamb. Okay, you've made the choice, but there was no choice. You don't like steak. You're going to make, and those little things become bigger and bigger and bigger. You grew up in a household where you were perhaps berated or yelled at. The odds are you're either going to yell and berate other people, or you're going to do the complete opposite. One or the other, depending on other things that are going on around you. So, I listened to him, and the place that he went, that I was thankful that he went there, was what's motivation. After we say everything's predetermined, then what motivates us? And I'm like, thank you for saying that, because if you're telling me it's all predetermined, then why bother getting out of bed?
What are the origins of desire? Right. That is a lifelong question I've had.
And, and he said, I can't answer that. He goes, I can't answer that. And I'm like, okay, well, at least he said that, because he's basically saying we need to rethink the way we deal with people, so that if, a murderer, if you look at the life of a murderer, odds are that person's lived a horrible life.
Yeah.
Odds are something's hard, even if they're not horrible, but they're biologically impaired or whatever. There's a reason. And instead of just locking them up, we should have some compassion. And I'm like, yeah, but. So the whole concept of our lives being determined changes the way humanity treats each other, changes the way we think about things.
It really does.
Changes it totally. And,
it really
how,
does.
what, when, and where, I don't know. But, he
really
says,
does.
It's like a few hundred years ago, old women with no teeth that lived outside of the city were burned to the stake for being witches. Because we don't do that anymore, do we? Because we changed. Because we realized there's no such thing as magic. Witches don't exist. Those women may be smart. They may be any number of things, but they're not, they're not witches. They're not making weather. Unless you believe they are. In any case, he was just basically saying how, if life is predetermined, we do need to think about humanity in a different way. long story
It's
short.
so it is so
Yeah, it
confounding.
is pretty confounding.
And to go back to the example that I said of making a left instead of a right, that literally happened to me in Alaska. And I was standing there. I wanted a hot shower. I had just hitchhiked back from Coldfoot and come into the city. I didn't know what I was going to do next, and I just wanted to go to a hotel. And I had a map in my hand, and I was determined to find that hotel. And I should have known better because I get lost in the mall. But I cannot read a freaking map, and I'm so sure that I can. This time I got it. And I made a left instead of a right. Now, there are people out there who will say, well, you still, ended up in the same destination. And I'm like, actually, I didn't. I actually ended up at a perpetual yard sale on a Tuesday, and I earned my place on the floor that day by cooking pancakes for 13 people at 11 a.m. And that earned me a spot on the floor and a bicycle. I took that bicycle, yes, I took that bike and I rode into downtown Anchorage, came across a lanky guy with a big backpack, and we hit it off, and we ended up being the best of travel buddies. He'd been under the radar, traveling around for 14 years so far. He had everything a person could need to survive off grid. And me and Greg, he was fantastic. And if I'd gone to stay in the hotel that night, I never would have seen Greg. It would have changed my entire experience of what I call the Alaskan adventure. So, was it predetermined that I would stand there and feel like an idiot with a map and going, damn it, I fucked up again? But look how it turned out.
That's I don't know.
Right?
Mhm.
There's still, I still have questions. There was a particularly dark moment in my life, and I had a voice whisper to me desperately, "Oh, you quit too soon. You quit too soon. I shouldn't be here," based on what I did that night. And you quit too soon. It really pissed me off. And I'm like, where's the fucking manual? Where's the manual? Quit too soon according to who? I thought we had free will. I thought we got to choose.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all right, if in case I messed up, wake me up in the morning. And I was woken up in the morning. I should have slept for 4 days, but I was woken up in the morning at 8 a.m. and it was as if I hadn't taken those 30 or 40 sleeping pills. I was fine. I wasn't groggy. I wasn't hungover. Nothing. It's like it never happened.
Mm.
I was awakened 3 times that night by a dream that made me sit up to talk because I thought my friend was in the room. Oh, she's not here. That happened 3 times that night. And that started with the little voice that said, you quit too soon. You quit too soon. Damn it. I was mad about it. Why don't we get a copy of the manual? Why can't we
Because
know?
we're writing it.
Why can't we?
We're in it. We're writing it and we're in it.
Well, according to who did I quit too soon? Where's my? I'm the one of the few people, Joy, that wants to know what their end date is. I want to know what my expiration date is. I want to know. If it was, and here's the thing, and this is good measure. If you knew that yours was next week, what would you do differently today? How much more out loud would you live out loud?
I would drain every penny that I had. I would be like, I don't have to worry because Tuesday, won't matter.
Right.
But you want to know something? I think you will know. You will know. Because I think you're listening and you can hear. You may not know the exact day, maybe you will. But you'll be, okay, something's up.
That's a good point, hon. Thanks for that.
Something's up. I think all of us can hear that, but sometimes we're just too noisy. Because I can generally feel when the wind blows and it's blowing in a different way. Sometimes I just don't understand it. But, flight or fight kicks in and I'm like, what's that? What's that? And We need to trust ourselves a little bit, because I think, again, along the lines of it's already determined, we can see the patterns. We know if we've been around the corner more than once, we can see the patterns. Oh, I've been here before. Something's about to repeat itself. Right? So you know when things are not right. You know when things are right. You know to some extent. You just need to listen and trust yourself. And sometimes you want it to happen. So you might be pushing it too hard. You might not want to listen. I don't, I'm not all knowing. I'm just saying that there have been more times that I've gone, what's that? What's that? And I let it slide, or I listen. And then after it happens, I'm like, I shouldn't have let it slide.
If there are elements of a no, it's not the big yes. So I've learned to listen to that. I do want to share with your audience one thing, so that, because people are often so scared of dying that they're not really living. And I don't know that that's your audience, but I really want to leave this message with them. When I was 12, we went to the beach. My brother and I were going to do some body surfing with our rafts. There was a hurricane out over Cuba. Waves were huge. They were going over the pier. The beach was closed. We rode our bikes in. And George, the lifeguard, was there. We knew George. George knew us. And I was a good little swimmer. So was my brother. And George took us out past where the waves were breaking. And because it was really one or the other. You're going to be on swells. There was no riding this body surfing on a raft. We didn't know how bad the beach was that day. And I got sort of seasick, and I said, I got to go in. I can't do these swells. This isn't fun. This isn't what we came to do. We came in to ride the whitewater and have some fun. And, so I headed in. The waves are so big, they can't see me anymore. Okay. As I'm getting to the point where the waves crest and the undertow comes in, out, it pulls out. I got pulled under by my feet and crashed over by a wave. And I kind of found my way back up. And then another one came, and I kind of lost my balance. And then a third one came, and I was done. And I knew I was done. And in that moment, I pulled out of my body, and there was no fear. There was nothing, no stress, no worry, nothing. It was so calm. And I'd had a real mix of Jewish temple and Baptist Sunday schools, and I had all kinds of, running through my head. And I was like, isn't there supposed to be a tunnel and some light or something? Then there's I'm kind of like making this up, like, surely, because I'm no longer afraid that I've drowned or I'm drowning. I have nothing but peace. It's awesome. And I'm like looking over the peripheral of the corner of my eye, and I was like, well, is there a tunnel and light over here? I would advise not going to the light. Since then, I've learned that what you want to do is determine to pass the exit, exit the matrix. Don't go to the light. Don't come back. Don't pass go. Just get out. Just take your dagger, rip a hole in the matrix, and get out. Anyway, that's another story. What happened was, this beach, closed beach, a guy saw what happened to me and came along like a kitten and picked me up, like practically by the scruff of my neck, and took me to shore. And I had all this experience,
This
Joy.
is Beach Man Angel.
Right? Sits me down. You okay? You okay? Yeah, I'm okay. I didn't need resuscitation. No, nothing. Nothing. And I watched him walk until I couldn't see him anymore down the beach. I don't think he disappeared. I don't think it was like that literal of an angel. Right. And only then, as I look back at the water, did I sort of come back in my body and realize that's when fear set in. I said, oh my God, I almost just died. I know damn well I almost just died, or maybe I did. I don't know what the hell just happened. But I'll tell you, dying's easier than living.
Mhm.
It's living that's
Yeah,
hard,
I,
you
I,
know?
I tend I tend to think that too.
Yeah. So, like,
Don't look
guys, live out
forward to it,
loud.
but don't, when it comes,
No worries. And the people that we've lost, keep that in mind too. So it's easier to let go because, you know, there is this extraction that happens and they're off doing something else. Action Jackson over there in the spiritual
yeah,
realm,
I
whatever.
don't, yeah, I don't know.
There's cultures that celebrate that.
Mhm.
They literally have big parades. They pass out flyers from, it's usually the African cultures that do this, and they have big 3-4 day parties. The queen died. Yeah, let's party. And they have a great time. Why not? You know? But in the meantime, between here and there, let's all live out loud.
Yes, it's all about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thank you very much for being here with me.
It has been my pleasure.
Good,
Thank
good
you.
luck with your adventure.
Thanks. I'm getting a little cagey, I must admit. About 5 or 6 years into a place, I'm getting like, what's next?
Well, maybe
So we'll see.
we'll see you in another place, another time, another.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.